The research vessel Nautilus pitched violently as another massive wave crashed against its hull. Dr. Kira Patel gripped the railing of the submersible launch bay, her knuckles white against the steel. The Pacific Storm had appeared out of nowhere, transforming their routine deep-sea research mission into a fight for survival. "We need to abort the dive," Captain Rodriguez shouted over the howling wind. "These conditions are impossible." But Kira couldn't tear her eyes away from the sensor readings. Something was down there, 3,000 meters below the surface, emitting energy signatures unlike anything their instruments had ever detected. As the ship's lead marine biologist, she'd studied countless deep-sea anomalies, but this was different. The pattern was too regular, too precise to be natural. 10 minutes, she pleaded, her dark eyes meeting the captain's weathered face. "That's all I need. Whatever's down there, it's rising, and it's alive." Rodriguez cursed under his breath but nodded. He knew Kira's instincts had saved their research more than once. 10 minutes. Not a second more. Kira rushed to prep the remote submersible, her hands flying over the controls with practiced efficiency. The vessel's cameras activated, penetrating the absolute darkness of the Hadal zone. At first, there was nothing but the usual endless black, but then, movement. A flash of bioluminescence, but not in any pattern she recognized. There. She adjusted the submersible's position, tracking the moving light. "It's definitely biological, but these readings, impossible. The energy output is off the charts." The light grew stronger, more focused, until suddenly the submersible's cameras revealed something that made Kira's breath catch in her throat. It wasn't a new species of jellyfish or squid. It was a vessel, barely larger than a car, its metallic surface adorned with swirling patterns that pulsed with their own inner light. And inside, visible through what appeared to be a transparent section of hull, was a child. But not a human child. The being was small, perhaps the size of a 5-year-old human, but its skin had a subtle iridescent quality, like mother of pearl. Its large, almond-shaped eyes were closed, and what looked like fine, crystalline filaments floated around its head like hair in water. The child was curled in on itself, clearly injured or unconscious, and the vessel around it showed signs of damage. "Captain," Kira's voice trembled. "We need the crane. Now." "Patel, what are you seeing down there?" "Something that changes everything." She took a deep breath, steadying herself. "And if we don't help, it's going to die." The next 30 minutes passed in a blur of activity. Despite the storm, the crew managed to raise the alien vessel using the ship's crane. As soon as it cleared the water, the bioluminescent patterns dimmed, and Kira could see the full extent of the damage. Something had torn through one side of the craft, leaving a jagged hole that had somehow sealed itself against the ocean's pressure. They secured the vessel in the ship's main hangar, and Kira approached it slowly, her heart pounding. The transparent section began to shimmer and then simply disappeared, leaving an opening. The child inside hadn't moved. Without hesitation, Kira climbed into the vessel. The interior was warm, and the air, there was air, smelled like ozone and something sweet she couldn't identify. She reached out to check the child's pulse, then stopped, realizing she had no idea if this being even had a pulse or where to find it. The child's eyes snapped open. They were golden, with pupils that shifted like liquid mercury, and they fixed on Kira with an intelligence that made her gasp. The child spoke, its voice like chimes in the wind, in a language she couldn't understand. But when it reached out one small, 6-fingered hand and touched her arm, Kira's mind exploded with images. A massive ship, far above Earth's atmosphere. Alarms. Fire. The child being placed in the escape vessel by someone tall and beautiful, with the same iridescent skin. Love, fear, urgency. A message, keep safe. Hidden. Until return. The child's hand fell away, and with it, the vision. Kira found herself crying, though she couldn't have explained why. She knew, with a certainty that defied logic, that this child was precious beyond measure, and that others would be coming for it, both those who wanted to protect it and those who meant it harm. Captain Rodriguez's voice crackled over the intercom. Dr. Patel, we're picking up 3 ships on radar, approaching fast. Military vessels, not responding to hails. Kira looked into those strange, golden eyes again and made a decision that would change not only her life but potentially the course of human history. She reached out and took the child's hand. "I'll keep you safe," she whispered. "I promise." The child squeezed her hand, and somehow, Kira knew it understood. Outside, the storm raged on, and somewhere above them, ships were coming. But in that moment, in a damaged alien vessel in the hold of a research ship, a human scientist and an alien child formed a bond that would prove stronger than the forces trying to tear them apart. The real storm, Kira knew, was only beginning. The military helicopters arrived before dawn. Kira watched them descend through the last remnants of the storm, their searchlights cutting through the darkness like accusing fingers. She had spent the last 6 hours in the ship's medical bay with the alien child, whom she'd started calling Nova, after the burst of light that had first caught her attention in the deep. Nova hadn't left her side, maintaining physical contact whenever possible. Each touch brought new fragments of understanding, images, emotions, and increasingly, comprehensible thoughts. The child was learning human language at an astronomical rate, absorbing it directly from Kira's mind. "They come," Nova said, the first spoken words Kira could understand. The child's voice had a musical quality, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "The ones who hurt my family." Captain Rodriguez burst into the medical bay, his face grave. "They're demanding immediate access. Naval Intelligence, CIA, and some agency I've never heard of. They're calling it a matter of national security." Kira stood, positioning herself between Nova and the door. "This isn't just about national security anymore, Captain. This is about interstellar security." She took a deep breath. "Nova's people, they're not running from humans. They're running from their own kind." The captain's eyes widened as he looked at the alien child. Nova had grown stronger in the past hours, the iridescent quality of their skin now rippling with subtle patterns of light that seemed to reflect their emotions. "Can they, tell us why?" Before Kira could answer, Nova pressed a hand against her arm. The vision hit her with shocking clarity, a massive space station orbiting a distant purple sun, internal battles between factions, and at the center of it all, a discovery. Something that could change the nature of space travel itself. Nova's parent, the tall figure from the earlier vision, had found it first. And then the killing had started. "They're looking for what Nova's parent discovered," Kira explained, her voice shaking. "Something about faster-than-light travel. Nova's family were scientists, not soldiers. They sent their child to Earth because they thought no one would look here. We're considered too primitive to be a threat." Rodriguez ran a hand through his gray hair. "Well, they got that wrong, didn't they? Those spooks up there won't let this go. They'll take the child, study it, try to get whatever information they can about this discovery. And then Nova's pursuers will come here," Kira finished. "They'll follow the trail right to Earth, and will be caught in the middle of their war." The sound of boots on metal interrupted them. Heavy footsteps approached the medical bay, accompanied by sharp orders and the click of weapons being readied. They were out of time. But Kira had already prepared for this moment. During the long hours of the night, while establishing their mental connection, she and Nova had explored the alien vessel together through the child's memories. She knew now how it worked, at least in theory. "Captain," she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart, "I need you to make a choice. Right now. What matters more, following orders, or protecting not just this child, but potentially our entire planet?" Rodriguez looked at the door, then back at Kira and Nova. In 20 years at sea, he'd developed an instinct for moments that changed lives. This one, he knew, would change worlds. What do you need? 3 minutes. And for you to be able to honestly say you tried to stop me. A ghost of a smile crossed his weathered face. Dr. Patel, as your commanding officer, I order you to stay exactly where you are. He turned and walked to the door, raising his voice. I'm coming out. The suspect is contained in the medical bay. The moment he stepped through, Kira moved. She scooped Nova into her arms and ran for the emergency exit at the back of the medical bay. The alien child wrapped their arms around her neck, those strange golden eyes glowing with trust. They emerged onto the outer deck just as the first armed agents breached the medical bay. The alien vessel was still in the hangar, 1 level below. Kira didn't hesitate. She jumped. Nova's touch guided her. The child's mental connection helped her body move with impossible precision, landing them safely on the hangar deck. Behind them, shouts of alarm and the pounding of boots on metal grew closer. The alien vessel responded to Nova's presence, its entry portal materializing as they approached. Kira dove inside just as the first shots rang out, bullets pinging harmlessly off the vessel's hull. The interior lit up with swirling patterns of light as Nova touched the control surface. Together, the child said, taking Kira's hand and placing it beside their own on the glowing panel. Trust, like you trust me. Understanding flooded Kira's mind, not just knowledge of how to operate the vessel, but why it worked the way it did. The technology wasn't just advanced, it was alive, a synthesis of organic and mechanical components that responded to thought and emotion as much as physical input. The vessel hummed to life, its damaged sections beginning to regenerate. Through the transparent hull, Kira could see armed figures flooding the hangar, weapons raised. Captain Rodriguez stood among them, shouting orders that seemed to deliberately miss crucial details about which way to look. Ready? Kira asked, though she already felt Nova's answer through their connected minds. The child smiled, an expression of such pure joy that it made Kira's heart ache. Ready, Protector. The vessel lifted off the hangar deck, its systems fully awakened now. The agents opened fire, but the shots dissipated against an energy field that sprang up around the craft. As they rose through the hangar's open roof into the pre-dawn sky, Kira felt Nova guiding her thoughts toward the vessel's navigation systems. They had to find somewhere safe, somewhere they could hide while Nova's parent completed their mission. But more than that, they needed to understand what they were protecting, and prepare Earth for what was coming. Because now that humans had become involved, there was no going back. The war that had been raging across distant stars was about to reach their doorstep. As the vessel accelerated away from the ship, cloaking systems engaging to hide them from both human and alien detection, Kira felt something she hadn't experienced since her first deep-sea dive, the pure, electric thrill of venturing into the unknown. She glanced at Nova, whose patterns of bioluminescence had shifted to match her own excitement. Where to? She asked. Nova's answer came not in words but in images, a hidden place, deep in the mountains, where the barriers between Earth's technology and the stars grew thin. Where they might find allies in the most unexpected places. The sun rose behind them as they flew west, leaving behind the chaos they'd created and heading toward whatever destiny awaited them in those distant peaks. Kira knew that every intelligence agency on Earth would be looking for them now, not to mention Nova's pursuers from the stars. But looking at the child beside her, seeing both the fear and the hope in those mercurial eyes, she knew she'd made the right choice. Sometimes the greatest acts of courage weren't made on battlefields or in moments of grand sacrifice, but in simple decisions to protect those who needed protection, whatever the cost. The ancient embassy hummed with awakening power as Nova worked at its central control matrix. Kira watched in amazement as holographic displays bloomed in the air, showing star systems, ship movements, and streams of data in an alien script that somehow, through her connection with Nova, she was beginning to understand. The sanctuary is fully operational, Nova announced, their small hands dancing over crystalline controls. And it's detected something. My parents' ship has entered the solar system. Kira felt her heart leap. They're alive? Yes, but... Nova's bioluminescent patterns darkened with worry. They're not alone. 3 shadowcraft fleets are in pursuit. And something else. The child's golden eyes widened. Elements of your world's governments are mobilizing. They've detected the incoming ships. Multiple displays showed Earth's military forces going to high alert. Nuclear arsenals were being prepared. Fighter squadrons scrambled. Humanity was about to face its first interstellar crisis, and they were going about it exactly the wrong way. We have to stop this, Kira said. If Earth's military engages either side, it'll be a massacre. And it might give the Shadowcraft the excuse they need to simply eliminate Earth as a potential problem. Nova nodded grimly. The Sanctuary has communications capabilities, but we need to be careful. The wrong message could make things worse. The child paused, their patterns shifting to a deep, thoughtful blue. Kira, there's something else you need to know. About why my parent chose you. The holographic displays shifted, showing what looked like biological scans. Kira recognized her own neural patterns, but there was something unusual about them. Something that made them almost identical to. Your brain structure, Nova explained, is remarkably similar to our species. It's rare, but it happens sometimes in human populations. That's why our mental connection forms so easily. And it's why you'll be able to help me do what needs to be done. Before Kira could process this revelation, alarms blared throughout the sanctuary. The shadowcraft that had chased them into Lake Superior had found something, not the sanctuary itself, but evidence of the underwater tunnel network that led to it. They'll be here within hours, Nova said, their voice steady despite the fear Kira could feel through their connection. And my parents' ship will arrive shortly after. The sanctuary's defenses are strong, but against that many shadowcraft. Then we need to do something they won't expect, Kira said, studying the tactical displays. An idea was forming, dangerous, possibly insane, but potentially their only chance. Nova, you said your parents' discovery could heal worlds. Show me exactly how it works. The next few minutes were a flood of information as Nova shared everything they knew about their parents' breakthrough. It was brilliantly simple in concept, a way to manipulate the fundamental forces that bound matter and energy together. It could be used to tear things apart, which was what the Shadowcraft wanted it for, or it could be used to heal, to restore, to create. The Sanctuary has a prototype of the device, Nova revealed, leading Kira to a sealed chamber. Inside was what looked like a crystal sphere about the size of a basketball, filled with swirling, iridescent energy. But it's never been tested at full power. The risks are better than the alternatives, Kira finished. Through their connection, she could feel Nova's reluctant agreement. They spent the next hour preparing. Nova taught Kira how to interface with the Sanctuary's systems, how to channel her thoughts through the alien technology in ways her unexpectedly compatible brain structure made possible. All the while, the displays showed their enemies drawing closer, and Nova's parents' ship desperately trying to reach Earth before the Shadowcraft could spring their trap. When the first explosions rocked the Sanctuary, they were ready. The Shadowcraft had found them. Remember, Nova said as they took their positions at the Sanctuary's central control matrix, the prototype device hovering between them. Our minds must work in perfect sync. The power involved, if we lose control for even a moment. Kira reached out and took the child's hand. We won't. Trust what brought us together. Trust why your parent chose Earth, chose these waters, chose this place. She smiled. Trust why they chose me. The Sanctuary's outer defenses were already failing as the Shadowcraft brought their full power to bear. Above, Nova's parents' ship had arrived, engaging the enemy vessels in Earth's orbit while human military forces watched in confusion and fear. Now, Kira said, and they began. The prototype device activated under their combined will, filling the Sanctuary with blinding light. Kira felt Nova's mind mesh with hers completely as they channeled power that could reshape worlds. Through their shared consciousness, she finally understood the full scope of what they were attempting. They weren't just trying to stop a battle. They were about to demonstrate, to both humanity and their enemies, exactly what this power could do when used as it was meant to be used. Not to destroy, but to transform. The energy cascaded outward from the sanctuary in waves, passing through solid rock as if it were air. Where it touched the Shadowcraft's weapons, it didn't destroy them, it changed them, restructuring their very atomic nature into something harmless. The same energy washed over the damaged sections of Nova's parents' ship, restoring it to pristine condition. But that was just the beginning. Together, Kira and Nova directed the power upward, through miles of rock and water, into the atmosphere itself. Everywhere the energy touched, pollution vanished, replaced by clean air. Dead zones in the lakes and oceans began to teem with life again. Even the scars of old nuclear tests began to heal as radiation was transformed into beneficial energy. Through their expanded consciousness, Kira could feel the astonishment of both the Shadowcraft crews and Earth's military forces as they witnessed what this power could really do. This wasn't a weapon. It was the key to undoing millennia of damage, to restoring countless worlds that war and industry had left barren. "Look," Nova whispered in her mind. "They're standing down." The displays showed the Shadowcraft powering down their weapons, their crews seemingly stunned by the demonstration of what they had been trying to steal, and what they had completely misunderstood. And there, descending through the new clean sky toward the sanctuary, was Nova's parents' ship, its hull gleaming with the same iridescent patterns as their child's skin. The long chase was finally over. But for Earth, and for Kira, everything was just beginning. The sanctuary's great chamber filled with shimmering light as Nova's parents' ship descended through an opening that simply appeared in the cavern's ceiling. Kira and Nova stood together, their hands still joined, the prototype device now dormant between them. Through their mental connection, Kira could feel Nova's joy, anticipation, and, surprisingly, nervousness. The ship settled onto the ancient landing platform with impossible grace. Its hull bore the scars of its long flight, yet somehow maintained an elegant beauty. As its entry portal materialized, Kira found herself holding her breath. The being that emerged was exactly as she'd seen in Nova's memories, yet somehow more magnificent in person. Tall and willowy, with the same iridescent skin as Nova but patterned in more complex, mature designs. Their eyes held the same golden mercury swirls, but deeper, filled with centuries of knowledge. "Parent!" Nova called out, their patterns dancing with joy. But they didn't run forward. Instead, they squeezed Kira's hand and walked with her, together, to meet their parent. The tall being looked at their joined hands and smiled, an expression so human it made Kira's heart ache. When they spoke, their voice was like Nova's but deeper, rich with harmonics that seemed to resonate with the very air. "I am Celestis," they said in perfect English. "And you, Kira Patel, have proven that everything I believed about humanity was true." Before Kira could respond, the sanctuary's displays lit up with urgent information. Above them, the Shadowcraft fleet was withdrawing, but Earth's military forces were still on high alert. And now, diplomatic channels were flooding with messages as governments around the world tried to make sense of what had just happened. "They're afraid," Kira said. "Everything they thought they knew about humanity's place in the universe has just been upended." Celestis nodded. "Which is why what happens next is crucial." They turned to face the sanctuary's central control matrix. "Nova, my child, show them what you and your protector accomplished. Show them the truth of the gift." Nova stepped forward, their small hands moving with newfound confidence over the controls. The holographic displays expanded, showing the effects of their use of the prototype device. The healing was spreading, following Earth's natural energy channels through water and stone. Dead coral reefs were coming back to life. Depleted fish populations were regenerating. Even the holes in the ozone layer were beginning to close. This is what the Shadowcraft could never understand, Celestis explained. The discovery wasn't just about manipulating matter and energy. It was about understanding the fundamental connection between all living things. The same connection that let you and Nova join minds so easily, Kira. The same connection that exists between all sentient beings, if they only learn to see it. Through their link, Nova shared with Kira what would happen next. Earth would be offered membership in the Star Concordat, not as a junior partner to be protected, but as equals who had proven their worth through acts of compassion and courage. The sanctuary would become a true embassy, a place where humans could learn about their galactic neighbors while sharing their own unique perspectives and innovations. But there was something else, something personal that made Kira's breath catch. "We would like you to be one of the first ambassadors," Celestis said, confirming what Nova had already shared through their connection. "Your neural compatibility makes you uniquely suited to help bridge our cultures. And you've already proven your dedication to protecting both our people's interests." But Kira looked at Nova, her heart torn. The child's patterns shifted to show understanding and hope. "The ambassador training takes several Earth years," Nova said with a smile. "During which time I'll need someone to continue protecting me while I complete my own education. If you're willing." Kira felt tears in her eyes as she hugged the child who had changed her life so completely. Always. The next few hours were a blur of activity. Under Celestis's guidance, they crafted messages to Earth's governments, explaining what had happened and offering proof that the healing effects were real and permanent. The Shadowcraft leaders, faced with undeniable evidence of their error, began negotiations for their own redemption and rehabilitation. Captain Rodriguez, who had helped them escape what felt like a lifetime ago, was brought to the sanctuary to help coordinate with Earth's military forces. His weathered face broke into a broad grin when he saw Kira. "I knew you'd do something amazing, Dr. Patel," he said. "But this? This is beyond anything I could have imagined." As the day drew to a close, Kira stood with Nova and Celestis on one of the sanctuary's upper platforms, watching through a portal as the sun set over Lake Superior. The water sparkled with new life, and in the distance, she could see the first curious human ships approaching to investigate the miraculous changes in their beloved lake. "Are you ready for what comes next?" Celestis asked. "The path of an ambassador will not be easy. There are those who will resist change, both human and alien." Kira looked down at Nova, who beamed up at her with those remarkable golden eyes. She thought about the courage it had taken to make that first decision to help an unknown child. How that one choice had led to all of this. "Ready?" she smiled. "I've been ready since the moment I saw a strange light in the depths. Sometimes the greatest adventures begin with a simple choice to do what's right." Nova's patterns swirled with joy as they took her hand. Together, they watched Earth's first sunset of a new era, knowing that tomorrow would bring challenges and wonders they could only begin to imagine. But they would face them together, a human scientist and an alien child who had proved that the strongest force in the universe wasn't the power to destroy or even to heal. It was the courage to protect those who needed protection, to trust in the face of fear, and to believe that the unknown could bring not just danger, but the most remarkable gifts of all. Above them, the stars began to appear, no longer distant and unreachable, but full of promise and possibility. And somewhere out there, other children, human and alien alike, were looking up at those same stars, dreaming of the day when they too might bridge the vast distances between worlds, not with weapons or fear, but with understanding, compassion, and love. The sanctuary hummed softly around them, its ancient systems fully awake for the first time in millennia, ready to help guide humanity into a future that was both more wonderful and more challenging than anyone could have imagined. And at its heart stood an unlikely family, a human scientist who had chosen courage over comfort, an alien child who had found safety in the most unexpected place, and a parent whose faith in humanity's potential had set it all in motion. Together, they had not just saved each other, they had opened the door to a new chapter in the story of both their peoples. And this, Kira knew, was only the beginning.